Imagine getting a letter, anonymous, cold, exposing your deepest secrets. It sounds like a movie plot, but for people in Circleville, Ohio, it was real, a nightmare that lasted nearly 20 years.
Yeah, a truly terrifying campaign. This unknown writer seemed to know everything, using secrets to create fear and paranoia across the whole town.
And the real kicker, someone was convicted for attempted murder related to it all, but the letters kept coming, even from behind bars.
It's one of the most baffling parts of the story. Who was this person? How did they do it?
That's what we're exploring today. We'll walk through the timeline, look at the evidence, and, well, you can weigh the facts right along with us. Let's start at the beginning.
Right. We need to picture Circleville in the mid-1970s. Think classic, small-town Ohio. Peaceful, tight-knit, famous for its annual pumpkin show.
A place where everybody knows everybody, I imagine.
Exactly. And that closeness, that sense of community. That's what the writer twisted. In a small town, reputation is huge, and anonymous accusations can be devastating.
So when did this all kick off?
It started suddenly in 1976. The first letters landed in the mailbox of Mary Gillispie, a local school bus driver, and her husband Ron.
And what did they say? Were they threatening from the start?
Oh, absolutely. They were written in this really distinctive block handwriting, almost like carefully drawn capital letters, and they didn't pull any punches. The main accusation, that Mary was having an affair with Gordon Massey, the school superintendent.
Wow, straight for the scandal. Must have been incredibly invasive.
Totally. Viciously personal stuff.
Yeah.
Details about their lives, their routines. It felt like someone was watching their every move, like they knew things only an insider could know.
That constant feeling of being watched, judged by someone you can't even see. It's psychological torture, really.
It really is. A siege by mail. And it didn't stop with Mary and Ron. Soon, letters started showing up all over Circleville.
Really? Who else was targeted?
Gordon Massey got them too, naturally. But also other residents, local shop owners, town officials, even the newspapers received letters.
And were the accusations always about affairs?
No, it broadened out. Allegations of embezzlement popped up, domestic violence claims, other affairs. Someone even wrote accusing someone else of an alleged murder. It went from personal attacks to something trying to tear the whole town apart.
But this wasn't just one grudge. It was like trying to sow chaos everywhere. Neighbors suspecting neighbors.
Created this awful atmosphere of fear and suspicion. People started looking over their shoulders, wondering who was writing and who might be next.
What did Mary and Ron do? Did they go to the police?
They did. They took the letters straight to the Pickaway County Sheriff's Office. The investigators, they tried things like tapping phones, monitoring mail, but the letters just kept coming. This writer was slippery.
And things just kept getting worse for the Gillespies, didn't they? Especially for Ron.
Yeah, the pressure was immense. People who knew Ron said he became really agitated, almost obsessed with finding out who was doing this to them, destroying his life piece by piece.
I can't even imagine the stress, living under that kind of constant attack from the shadows.
It's unbearable pressure. Then, on August 19th, 1977, things took a really tragic turn. Ron Gillispie got a phone call late at night. A mysterious one.
Do we know who called? Or what was said?
No, that's still unknown. But whatever was said on that call, it really set Ron off. Mary later said he grabbed his .22 pistol, told his daughter he was going to confront the letter writer, and just drove off.
Confront them? He thought he knew who it was. Or where to find them.
It's unclear. Maybe the call gave him a clue, or maybe he just snapped. Hours later, though, his truck was found crashed into a tree. Ron was dead.
Oh my God, just like that.
And the scene was, well, troubling. His pistol was found underneath his body, and it had been fired once.
Fired? But the official cause of death was?
Accidental death. The coroner cited alcohol found in his system, but a lot of people immediately had doubts.
Yeah, I bet. He wasn't known as a big drinker, was he? And the gun being fired. That doesn't sound like a simple crash.
Exactly. People like his brother-in-law, Paul Freshour, were adamant. They believed it was murder. Was Ron shooting at the letter writer? Did someone shoot at him first? The accident ruling just didn't sit right with many.
And didn't things get even more complicated later with Mary and the superintendent?
Yes, adding fuel to the fire, Mary Gillispie did eventually start a relationship with Gordon Massey after Ron's death. For some in town, that seemed to confirm the original accusations in the letters, making everything even murkier.
So Ron dies, there's suspicion, but no answers. Did the letters stop then?
They seemed to slow down for a bit, but the fear didn't go away. Then, years later, in February 1983, the terror ramped up again. And this time, it wasn't just words, it was physical danger.
What happened?
Mary Gillispie was still driving her bus route. It was February 7, 1983, about 3:30 p.m. She spotted this crude, obscene sign posted along her route, targeting her 13-year-old daughter.
How awful. So she stopped to take it down.
Yes. She stopped the bus, went over to the fence where it was posted, and realized it was rigged. There was twine running from the sign to a box hidden nearby.
A box? What was in it?
She carefully took it home first. Inside was a loaded .22 caliber pistol, set up as a booby trap, rigged to fire when the sign was moved.
My God. That's attempted murder. Plain and simple.
Absolutely. After years of just letters, this was tangible, physical evidence of intent to kill. Horrifying.
What did she do with it?
She took the entire device to the sheriff's office. They called in the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation, the BCI. And those BCI techs, they managed to restore the serial number on the gun, even though someone had tried to file it off.
Okay, so they had a serial number. Could they trace it?
They could, and the trace led them to one person, Paul Freshour.
Wait, Paul Freshour, Ron Gillispie's brother-in-law, the one who thought Ron was murdered.
The very same man. It was a shock. By 1983, Paul was going through a pretty messy divorce from his wife, Karen Sue Freshour.
And did she have anything to say about this?
Oh, she did. When investigators talked to Karen Sue, she told them she'd suspected Paul was the letter writer all along.
Seriously, why? Did she have any proof?
Well, she claimed she'd found torn-up letters in their house over the years, even mentioned finding one piece in a toilet once.
Yeah.
But crucially, she hadn't saved any of them. No physical evidence. Which, some people found a bit convenient later on.
Okay, so no hard proof from her, just suspicion. How did Paul react when they confronted him about the gun and what his wife was saying?
He flat out denied everything. Denied writing letters, denied setting the trap. His story was that the gun had actually been stolen from him weeks before the trap was found. He also gave handwriting samples.
But the police didn't buy it.
Apparently not. He reportedly failed a polygraph test. And even though they didn't find his fingerprints directly on the booby trap device itself, the gun trace, his wife's accusation, the failed polygraph, it was enough.
They arrested him.
Yes, for attempted murder. There was also some other circumstantial stuff. He'd taken that specific day off work, February 7th. His defense had alibi witnesses, but the prosecution used it.
Right, and wasn't there something about the box used in the trap?
Yeah, the type of box was apparently available at the Anheuser-Busch plant where he worked. Again, circumstantial, but it added to the picture the prosecution was painting.
So it all led to his trial in October 1983.
At the Pickaway County Courthouse.
Yeah.
And obviously, Mary Gillispie's testimony about finding that trap must have been incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. That, plus the gun trace and Karen Sue's claims were central. But interestingly, the trial became heavily focused on the letters.
Wait, they used the anonymous letters in an attempted murder trial?
It did. Despite his lawyers objecting, the prosecution managed to get 39 of those anonymous letters admitted as evidence. And this is where the handwriting analysis became absolutely critical.
So they brought in experts. Handwriting experts testified they compared the writing on that note found with the booby trap, plus those 39 letters, against samples of Paul Freshour's known writing. Their conclusion: significant similarities. The style, the block lettering, the rhythm. They said it matched.
And was it just one expert?
Well, the prosecution presented their main expert, but reports say a second expert, who was actually first consulted by the defense, ended up agreeing with the prosecution's findings too.
Wow, so two experts linking his handwriting. That's pretty damning.
It was certainly presented that way. Put that together with the gun trace and the other circumstantial bits. Despite the defense pointing to the lack of fingerprints on the trap and presenting those alibi witnesses, Paul Freshour was found guilty.
Guilty of attempted murder. What was his sentence?
He got 7 to 25 years in prison. You'd think, at that point, Circleville could finally breathe easy. The supposed writer, the trap setter, was locked up.
This is where the story takes that completely bizarre twist, isn't it?
This is the absolute core of the mystery, the paradox that makes this case so unforgettable. Paul Freshour goes to prison, and the letters don't stop.
They kept going while he was locked up.
Yes. Hundreds more letters, starting almost immediately after he was convicted in late 1983, and they continued non-stop all the way until 1994.
But how? Wouldn't he be under, constant watch in prison, especially for something like this?
You would absolutely think so. Reports suggest he was under very strict supervision. The prison warden even went on record saying it would basically be impossible for Freshour to be sending out anonymous letters from inside. No unsupervised access to pens, paper, mail inspections, strip searches, all the protocols.
Yet the letters kept appearing outside. Who were they being sent to this time? Same people.
Some of the same residents, yes, but the list grew. Journalists covering the case, like Robin Yoakum and Martin Yant, started getting them. The prison warden received letters. And it may be the strangest twist of all.
Go on.
Letters were sent to Paul Freshour, inside prison, from the supposed Circleville writer.
He was getting letters from the writer while in prison for being the writer. That's surreal.
Well, isn't it? There's one incredibly chilling quote from a letter sent to Freshour behind bars. It said something like, "Now, when are you going to believe you aren't getting out of there? I told you 2 years ago when we set them up. They stay set up."
We set him up. That implies more than one person, a conspiracy.
That's exactly what it implies. That line, plus the sheer impossibility of him sending all those letters himself from prison. It's fueled speculation for decades. Was he framed? Was someone else involved? Or was that just a taunt from a very clever manipulator?
The case even got national attention, right? Unsolved mysteries.
Yeah, they featured the story back in 1993. And reports say even they received a threatening postcard related to the case soon after the episode aired.
Unbelievable. So this went on for how long exactly while he was inside?
For over a decade. The letters continued steadily right up until 1994.
And
Then, just like that, they stopped. After nearly 18 years since they first started in 1976.
Okay, wait. 1994. Isn't that the year Paul Freshour got out of prison?
The very same year. Released on parole in 1994, and the letters stop.
So let me get this straight. Letters start 76. Ron dies 77. Booby trap 83. Freshour convicted late 83. Letters continue from prison 83 to 94. Freshour released 94. Letters stop 94.
That's the timeline. And it's that sequence, especially the letters continuing from prison and stopping upon his release, that is just so confounding.
It leaves you with two almost impossible scenarios. Either Freshour somehow managed this elaborate decade-long letter campaign for maximum security.
Now, he wasn't the writer, or at least not the only writer, and he was wrongly convicted, potentially framed by the real person or people who just happened to stop when he got out.
Did Freshour ever change his story?
Never. He maintained his innocence right up until he passed away in 2012. Spent years trying to clear his name, apparently. So that question, who was the real writer, it still hangs over everything.
Have any credible theories emerged about who else it could have been?
Well, naturally, suspicion often circles back to his ex-wife, Karen Sue. The messy divorce, her initial accusation, the conveniently missing letter evidence. Some speculate she might have had motive and opportunity, maybe even continued the letters to keep him locked up. But it's crucial to say, police reportedly never named her an official suspect.
Any other possibilities?
There's a sad angle involving their son, Mark Freshour, who tragically died by suicide in 2002. Apparently, Paul himself had suspected Mark might have been the one who took the gun used in the booby trap. Whether that connects to the letters is pure speculation, though.
And wasn't there something about another sighting near the trap scene?
Ah, right. That detail sometimes comes up. Another bus driver reported seeing a large man with sandy hair near an El Camino around 3:10 p.m. that day, February 7th, very close to where Mary found the trap, just about 20 minutes later.
And the significance of that?
Well, reports suggest Karen Sue might have been dating someone fitting that description back then, and her brothers supposedly own an El Camino. But it seems that Leedy was never really followed up on in a major way.
Or could it have been someone completely unrelated to the family drama? Maybe someone targeting Massey initially, and it just spun out of control.
That's always possible.
Yeah.
The way the letters spread so widely suggests the motive might have been broader than just the Gillispie-Massey situation.
Yeah.
Maybe aimed at disrupting the whole town's sense of order.
It's just the conflicting evidence keeps pulling you in different directions.
You mentioned recent analysis.
Yes. CBS's 48 Hours covered it in May 2024. They had former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole look at the case materials.
And what was her take?
O'Toole focused on the psychology. She described the writer as deceptive, manipulative, maybe even trying to hide their gender. Interestingly, she felt the writing style seemed, well, not highly educated, which didn't quite fit with Paul Freshour having a master's degree.
So she had doubts about Freshour.
She did, Considering the difficulty of sending letters from prison and her analysis of the writing itself, she leaned towards someone else being responsible, or at least someone else sending the letters while he was inside. She questioned if he was the writer or the trap setter. Okay, so one expert leaning away from Freshour based on psychology and logistics.
But then you have forensic document examiner Beverly East, also featured in recent reports. She looked at the actual handwriting, all of it.
Including the prison letters and Freshour's known writing.
Exactly, and her conclusion was the polar opposite. She stated she was 100% sure it was all the same person. Paul Freshour, start to finish, including the letters mailed while he was incarcerated.
How could she be so certain, especially about the prison letters?
She pointed to very specific, unique handwriting quirks. Things like the way he consistently formed the letter G so it looked like a number 6, or a certain number that could be read as either a 3 or a 2. She found these exact same individual characteristics repeated across decades in his known writing and in all the anonymous letters, prison ones included, like a handwriting fingerprint.
Wow. Finding those tiny specific details mirrored in letters supposedly sent when he couldn't, that makes the logistics argument much harder.
It really complicates things. And there's one more piece of forensic evidence that emerged, pointing back to Freshour for those prison-era letters.
What's that?
Reports mention that Paul Freshour's fingerprints were actually found on about a dozen of the anonymous letters that were postmarked while he was supposedly locked up tight.
Fingerprints on letters mailed from the outside while he was inside. How is that even possible?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Logistically, it seems almost impossible. But if those reports are accurate, it's physical evidence directly linking him to letters sent during his incarceration. It flies in the face of the "he couldn't have done it" argument, even if we can't explain how.
So we have experts completely disagreeing, seemingly impossible logistics challenged by fingerprint and handwriting evidence. It just keeps getting stranger. What's the official status now?
Officially, Ron Gillispie's death is still ruled an accident, and the Circleville letter writer case, while considered closed by the Pickaway County Sheriff's Office, remains officially unsolved in the public eye. The mystery endures. We've gone from those first terrifying letters in 1976, through Ron's tragic death, the shock of the Booby trap in '83, Paul Freshour's trial and conviction, and then that decade of baffling letters from prison. It's a case that just refuses to offer easy answers.
It really does. And it leaves us, and you listening, right back at that central paradox. Given that the letters did keep coming while Freshour was locked up, supposedly unable to send them, what do you make of it all?
Does the conflicting expert testimony, the handwriting quirks, those reported fingerprints, does that paint a picture of an incredibly cunning man who somehow beat the system from the inside?
Or does the sheer impossibility, combined with that unsettling "we set him up" message, suggest he was the fall guy, framed by the real writer or writers who simply stopped their campaign when he was no longer a convenient target? Is there a truth still buried deep in Circleville?
It's a question with no definitive answer. We genuinely want to know what you think. Who do you believe was the Circleville letter writer? Was Freshour guilty? Was he framed? Share your theories in the comments below. And if you found this story as compelling and mysterious as we do, please subscribe to the channel. We explore complex cases like this regularly.
Let's keep the conversation going. Continue seeking answers, and perhaps one day find some measure of justice or clarity in these enduring mysteries.